because went to the park, got my vaccine. My arm was pretty sore for a day. I don't know about you, but I was lounging at the park and you know, and it was a sunny day, but a drop of water, I thought was water, fell on my lips as I was lying in the park. Fell on my lips, and I opened my eyes to see a sweaty old man, drenched, like with the sweat just pouring off of him.
Like on top of you?
I saw him earlier running around. No, he was about 6 feet away, or maybe five, let's say 5, because he wasn't social distancing enough.
How did that sweat get to you?
Well, his hair wasn't as long as mine, but his hair was long and drenched in sweat, and so he's like stretching and throwing his hair around. So he's launching globs of sweat into the air, and it was landing on my lip, and it was so gross. So that happens, right? And I opened my eyes, and I'm like, you know, initially you open your eyes.
I don't think the vaccine can cure that shit.
Oh God! You know what? I don't think there's any cure for how it's traumatized me.
Did you say anything to the guy? It's like, hey, dude, what the fuck?
I did. This is the thing, though, because so it happens. Then you open your eyes, you look up, you go, wait a minute, it's not raining. Why did that happen? And then you start to look around, and I sat up and I went, oh, dude, gross, right? But that made me look weird because other people sitting around the park. Yeah. They just saw me go, oh, dude, gross.
Yeah.
And I think everybody thought the man stretching was gross. Like they think I'm just.
But you know it was from him.
Oh, it was 100%.
But did he say I'm sorry, or did you go to him and be like, hey, what the hell are you doing, you shaggy dog?
No, he just kept stretching, and it just made the whole incident awkward. But I mean,
could it be? But could it be that it maybe was a second sweat, like, you know, like in Seinfeld, there was a second spitter. Because that's a mighty sweat that he just traveled 6 feet and he got to your mouth. Maybe the sweat was you.
Yeah, maybe I could go back and see if anybody was filming that day.
Yeah.
Maybe,
or maybe
another suspect.
Have you ever thought it was like a squirrel that pee, or a bird that they just, like, you know?
I got to admit, it never crossed my mind. It sounds like you're defending this guy. Like,
I'm not. Well,
I'm 100% sure that it was the sweaty man that was 5 feet away from me. 100%. There's no. I haven't second guessed that from the start. But what I have second guessed is everything else in my life, because it was fucking traumatic, and I don't want any.
What did you do? Like, didn't you? I would have been like, especially like after the vaccine, you're like, oh man, a whole year they didn't get anything, and now you got sweat from somebody that you don't know if that.
I spent the whole night like cleaning my lips like every 20 minutes, just going,
oh man.
That's what I think about, going, oh God, oh gross, man. So that was it was gross. You shouldn't be allowed. I think we need rules in the public parks. We should have a rule of like, you shouldn't be allowed to sweat that much right now. Like I get it eventually, but we're all coming out of quarantine now, and so we're all a bit. We don't need all this. Like, if you're sweating to the point where your rivulets of sweat are just launching off of you and landing on other people, just kind of stay home.
Was this like a guy that was jogging, or was like a homeless guy? Like, what?
He was jogging. I would say he was probably about a 60-year-old ex-rock star, because he was bandana, right? So longish hair, bandana, but the bandana was drenched. Like, he was just drenched.
Was it Axl Rose?
It's in that realm. We're talking in that realm, and I would say it was probably his first jog around the park in a year. You know, so this is him trying to get back into fitness, and the water was just. I call it water. That's being kind. It was just
what is called? A November rain sweat.
Right. Well, okay, sure. I mean, it's April. It is April, but
hey, yes. April showers bring.
It was an April. It was an unwanted April shower. So I think we should have a rule. I think you should either be, you got to be amateurish. I think if you're too shitty and you're going to sweat too much, don't come to the public parks. And also, if you're too good at things, don't be in the public parks. Because I've also seen very good yoga people like flaunting their great bodies at the park, and I don't want either, because neither of those things influence those of us who are in the middle to get up and start
Well,
exercising
also you
again.
should not be sleeping in the park too, like you were doing.
Yeah, you're allowed to sleep with what's wrong with that? That's
No,
an
I mean
allowed
that.
thing.
No, really. I mean, I don't think you
Oh
should be
no,
able
it's
to.
fantastic. I go once a day. I go up to Griffith Park and I listen to an audiobook. I go and I lie in the park and I listen to an audiobook for 1 hour, and that centers me. And then I come back and get in the shit and get
Like
into
in
my
the
work
middle
and
of the
stuff.
grass.
Yeah, in the middle of the grass in the park. Yeah,
You know,
like,
when I see
all
that,
the other human beings do.
no, when if I'm walking around, I see that, I right away I go like, that guy's homeless, OD, and that's it. Like, because I don't.
Really?
Yeah, you laying like, I don't lay in the park like with no. Do you will have a towel or something, or
Yeah, I've got
you
a
just
towel.
laying there?
I take a towel and a pillow. I've got a park pillow. I've got a whole set. I got a park set. I got a bag because I stream during the day. So when I finish my stream, as soon as I hang up from my stream, I just get out of the house. I grab my bag with my park towel and my park pillow, and I go up to the park and I listen to an audiobook for an hour. I think this makes sense. I don't know what your hang up is about people hanging out in their public park. I
No,
just
no,
think
man.
it's legit to have a hangout of them sweating on you in the public park. I don't want that.
I
We
mean,
don't need
I
that.
think it makes more sense to me somebody sweating in a park because they're working out than somebody just sleeping there, like in a park. I never like enjoy like sleeping in a park.
Okay, I don't think people really call it sleeping either. Like it's sunbathing or relaxing or
Okay,
laying.
all right.
But yeah, I don't go. Oh, it's nap time.
No, but there's some people that.
walk to the park.
Well, there's some people that just like fluly sleep in the park, and like
Right.
So I was
Those
like,
are
what are you
called
doing?
homeless people. Yes, there. I see where you're going with that now. Those would be the homeless people. Yes.
Well, that's what that's what I imagine you
Okay,
were doing.
I follow you now, but yeah,
Right.
not in the day, not in the daytime. But I'm really excited, buddy. I'm really excited to have our guest this week.
Wait! Oh, Jesus! You threw some sweat at me, man.
Yeah. Did you feel that? Did it came through?
Yeah.
Baby, it's
Your
contagious.
hair.
If I start profusely sweating, then we'll know I caught whatever the fuck it is that guy launched into my mouth, man. Oh, now you got me down, grossed out again. Yeah, buddy, I'm really looking forward to introducing you to our guest this week. This is a good friend of mine, man, and he's been high on our list since we started doing this podcast. His name is Ben Hurley. He's a New Zealand comic, but he and we know each other from Britain. We started our careers off, early days in Britain and stuff, and I can't wait. Like I haven't had a good chat with him for a while. He's I think New Zealand's probably doing a lot better than America in the quarantine, and fantastic guy. So I'm really excited to have him.
Yeah, it was fun to chat with him. It was fun to learn learn some things about New Zealand and learn some things about the world too, because it's very culture. Because he's the host of a panel show. Is that his show, or he's part of the panel?
He's one of the rotating team captains on on the #1 New Zealand comedy show, and it's a panel show. So very funny. He's had me as a guest on it a few times, and so it's the #1 comedy in New Zealand. And then also he has his own radio show. Plus he's just an outstanding stand-up. I mean, on our Twitter and stuff all week, I've been putting up Ben Hurley clips and stuff. I highly recommend him. Hugely entertaining individual. So he ticks all of those boxes. And yeah, I think he's a national comedy hero.
Awesome. Can't wait to everybody to listen, because I had a really good time talking to him. He was a really entertaining guy.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
All right. Let's stop. Come on. All right. Jay just got the sweats, but you know what? Let's just go and start this episode now with Ben Hurley, episode 21 at Standby with JJ and Francisco. Bye, hello. All right.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. We are joined by comedy impresario Ben Hurley, all the way from New Zealand. How are you, buddy?
Great. Hello, everybody. I hope you can understand me with my thick South Pacific accent.
You're
Yeah,
pretty
no, we're
good.
good.
I mean, we had Larry Dean from Scotland on a couple weeks ago, so don't you even worry. The audience is fine tuned at this point. Have you been introduced as a comedy impresario yet?
No, in fact, I'm not sure that's a word. I think you've made that up.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean, JJ.
Well, it works, doesn't it? I mean,
I mean, it works to you, but I don't know what you're trying to say with that.
oh, okay, all right, cynics. You know, I think he's impressive, and then the EO is just a little excitement on the end.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I thought you
It's-
actually meant like empresario, like in Spanish, like he has business, like companies build. You know, that's what you meant. I thought that's what you were saying.
What, like an entrepreneur?
Yeah, like an empresario, because empresario is like entrepreneur.
Well,
Yeah.
guess what, guys? I did just look it up, and it is a real word, and it means one who produces entertainment. So, a shaboom!
All right.
Jay is wise. Are we gonna have? Do we have to do a reboot of this? Just to ask while we're on, because our guest is in the bottom, and we usually have our guest up on top. But we're just gonna.
Can do it pretty quick.
Oh,
There
look
it
at,
is.
that was easily done.
Easy, easy.
Like we got this magic producer waiting in the wings.
I thought it was
excellent.
because I'm from the bottom of the world. I thought I'd be relevant, like in a geographical way.
Oh, that's a
That's
good
true.
point.
But we
Now
want you, but you're in the future, so that's why you're on top.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any idea what time it is in LA. No
It's
idea.
7 p.m. on Sunday of 2020.
Okay.
So we're still in the beginning of the pandemics here.
Yeah.
It's all fine here now.
Oh, nice.
2 hours later, everything's solved.
Great.
Hasn't it been fun down there for a while though? Anyway, I mean, you guys
Well,
have been.
Yeah, we did a really hard lockdown for 6 weeks. Actually, it was this time last year.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
did the full lockdown. You can't leave your house except to go to the supermarket, and it basically got rid of it. We got down to 0 live cases.
That's great.
And then they kind of semi-opened the border up a little bit so that you still had to do 2 weeks isolation, but you still do now. And then so we got cases in our managed isolation hotels, and then the odd one snuck through, and we've had little outbreaks, but nothing more than I think a 3-week semi-lockdown since a year ago. Yeah.
And is
That's
it safe
great.
to say that this is because it's an island, so you're pretty secured with your borders, but also because Kiwis listen to advice. Is that also the safe thing to assume?
I think that there's definitely a part of that. Our Prime Minister also listened to these things that we have here called scientists. I think
we do, but ours are people don't care more about the freedom than the science. You know, because 6 weeks in your house while you watch Netflix, it's prison for some people.
Yeah, it's quite the infringement on your freedoms. My freedoms don't care about your science, basically, is what they're all shouting in the streets.
It was that, but I'd say you're right. Like, because we're colonial people, like Canadians, we're quite obedient.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, I always say that I think the U.S. is like the country, or the people that live in the U.S. is a country that's been very spoiled for the past 100 years, because nothing has happened to them. Like, any wars have been outside, or anything that's bad has always been outside of the U.S. So but other countries like in South America or in Europe or even over there, there's been struggles. So people are used to something bad as a pandemic is happening. We listen to all right, we're gonna do this for 6 weeks just to control it. Fine, But I feel here because none of that has happened, so it's kind of like a spoiled child syndrome. I don't want to do that. I never had to do anything that in my life. So now it's people start calling all this freedom stuff, which has nothing to do with anything. So
I mean, there's an element of that here, I guess, but it's pretty small. And we obviously, Jay and myself have lots of friends in the UK, and they kind of tried to do the lockdown thing. But they didn't do it properly. They had rules you could go to the pub, but until 10 p.m. because that's when the virus comes out.
Yeah, because the virus is it's like a vampire or whatever. Like, oh, they only come out when the sun goes down, so we're fine to drink all day until the sun sets, and then out of there. Yeah, no, I think that's a hugely advantageous thing. Also, just to be able to cut off your borders like that is fantastic too. I mean, you guys have a great deal of freedom as it is on your lovely island, don't you? Like what you told me earlier, you were at the beach with your kids today.
Yeah, it's school holidays at the moment, and that kind of American idea. I know we're not supposed to be talking a lot of politics, but that idea.
Oh no, we haven't started with the tough travel questions yet. Anyway, man. So you go ahead and riff away. That's all right, brother.
That idea of freedom, that word freedom that you hear about in American culture all of the time. I guess in this country, like, you just kind of take it for granted. Like we just have that. There's things that we have rules about that are quite strict, I guess, that are generally to do with health and safety. We have like some of the most intense health and safety rules in the world.
Right.
Like we're up there with like Sweden.
Yeah, but you've also got quite socialized medicine as well, right?
Yeah,
so is that why your government is like, yeah, if we're gonna socialize your medicine, how about you guys not fuck yourselves up constantly? Yeah. Which is all, it's like a trade-off.
Yeah, I mean, we're essentially Canada, except it doesn't snow; it rains. That's it.
Right. Yeah. There's many rainy seasons over there, from what I recall. So
yeah, a lot of rain.
Yeah. Fantastic, buddy. Well, you know the deal. You know the deal with our little podcast here, Travel and the Arts. We're gonna fire these questions at you, and then we'll just shoot the shit and talk away. Really straightforward. No need to worry about failing the test.
Okay.
And I'm gonna hand it over to Francisco with the first question for you.
Cool. All right, Ben. So first question is, what was your first big move for the sake of your comedy career? And if you didn't move, like, I guess what was the first
I know
big
the answer.
Fan? Okay. All right. So I mean, JJ, do you want to answer? Or?
Oh no, I know what the answer will be. It's very similar to my answer. What my answer would be, but go ahead, Ben.
It's identical to Jay's answer. I moved to the UK, which New Zealand. We follow British culture, particularly comedy culture and artistic culture, even musical culture, up until I would say maybe 10 years ago, more than American culture, far more.
Why is that?
I guess it's a colonial past thing.
We're part of the Commonwealth as well. So we're part of the Commonwealth. So we're gonna
we're allowed. There's a tradition in New Zealand. I don't know if you have the same word in Canada, but we call it you go on your OE. Like, so when you leave school and you're like 18, 19, 20, maybe even up to 25, you do something called your OE, your overseas experience. And most New Zealanders go to Britain.
Okay.
Some go to America, but it's harder to work there, or Australia, because we have a free, New Zealanders and Australians can work in the other one's country quite happily. Okay. But so there was an aspect of that, and also for me at the time, the UK was the center of the comedy universe. So, and I'd made a lot of friends that were British comics who'd come to New Zealand for our comedy festival, and so I had kind of contacts there, and it was kind of something I was always going to do from the day I started comedy. But I was 4 years in before I went.
Right. 4 years. Yes, because you just piqued my curiosity there. Because you're right. In Canada, we don't have anything called the OE, or we don't have a label like that. But we do have a young person's travel deal with Britain. As long as you're under 24, you get to spend two years in Britain. We haven't labeled it like that, but I find that interesting. So you were going as a comedian, and you were hosting all these British comics. Because I started in Britain. So I didn't think about that. Right. You had already had like all this experience, and then you showed up in London.
Well, we had some experience. Obviously, we're a small country, so I didn't gig like 5 times a week. There wasn't like 1,000 open mics like there are now for you to just go and do. Like, I probably in those first 4 years, I probably did maybe 150 gigs, which when you think about it, isn't a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
And so my development, I guess, was a little slower than if I'd have been in the UK. But I won an award, and it gave me 7,000 New Zealand dollars, which was enough to get me there.
That's like $1,000, isn't it? British pounds.
It bought me
You won an
hamburger
award in New Zealand or in England?
In New Zealand.
In New Zealand, yeah.
In New Zealand. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then you traded it for 3 magic beans.
Yeah, I got a pint and a hamburger and a slap on the nose, and they said.
And when you started doing comedy in New Zealand, was there already a big scene over there, or were you kind of like, did you start it, or?
Oh no, there was definitely a scene. There was a full-time comedy club in Auckland, which JJ's performed at many times, called The Classic, which is still there today.
Love it. It's one of the best clubs around, man. The layout is fantastic. Francisco, you'd love it, man. There's like a little balcony too that you can like yell at your what are the Muppets?
yeah, Sattler and Waldorf, yeah.
What a fantastic club. Really fun.
Yeah, and there was maybe kind of half a dozen to a dozen comedians that people knew. It's kind of, I don't know if you've ever gigged in Ireland, I know Jay has, but it was kind of similar. Like, we're similar sized countries, and we had a similar sized comedy scene, I guess, about at that time. It's definitely, I guess it was in its, not infancy when I left, but it would have been in its kind of adolescence, because we hadn't quite had the international success of Flight of the Conchords and Race Darby at that point. And so now we do. So now we're kind of internationally recognized as a comedy place.
You're internationally recognized, and also I noticed there's been an explosion of New Zealand homegrown talent, like at home, hasn't there? Because even when I first started doing your festival with you, the New Zealand Comedy Festival, it was maybe 50% homegrown talent, and then by the last time I was there, it was probably 80% New Zealand acts. So the scene really has exploded in the last 10 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's similar to what you've told me about Canada, Jay, in that it was difficult for New Zealand comedians to get on TV for a long time, and we always looked to overseas for that kind of thing. And we had a bit of what we call cultural cringe, where we're like, oh, the British do it better, the Aussies do it better, the Americans do it better. And then the show that I'm on and have been for 12 years was kind of a breakthrough at home, in terms of making a lot of us more household names.
Now, just to let the viewers at home know, this is we're talking about 7 Days, which is a comedy panel show based on the week's events. Thus the title 7 Days, and it's loosely based around the formats that come out of Britain, all the panel show formats out of Britain. And your country snapped it up, which is crazy. Like I say to Francisco and a lot of our friends here, Canada and America have not caught on to the panel show idea yet, or the way it's done.
Oh, is it like Chelsea Handler type thing?
No, it's not, because Chelsea Handler just talks to her panel, but it's almost, I don't know. How would you explain it, Ben? You probably had to explain it quite a few times, the way it's not a talk show panel,
It's funny. I did some gigs in New York City, I would say 5 or 6 years ago now, and I actually was asked to come in for a meeting at a network there. And I had to explain the comedy panel show to these people at NBC, because they just had no idea. They're like, is it a game show? It's like, well, it's a fake game show. Like, there's points, but no one cares about the points. And there's games, but there's like a loose structure as to get to jokes, really.
I would say the closest that America got to it was At Midnight with Chris Hardwick hosting it. That was the closest. Some other differences in the At Midnight was maybe more intense and more felt like it was taken more seriously, whereas panel shows generally lets the talent is allowed to just relax into their material and say it. So it's less of a less of an elbows up kind of deal. Sorry, go ahead, bud.
I was going to say, for example, like a big story last week was obviously the Queen's husband dying, Prince Philip dying. And so, you might do a couple of jokes about a really old man dying and, how, whatever. And then you might just go, oh, yeah, well, I remember when I went to a funeral. And then you just kind of segue into something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like, you talk about it and then you can talk about whatever you want.
Yeah. It's a launching pad for, comedy and banter, I guess.
Yeah. And just to ask you about when you said that you did maybe 150 gigs at the start of your career before going over to Britain, did you notice right away like that you're on stage like in London, you're up on a Monday night and a Tuesday night, you're like, holy shit. Did you notice right away that your skill set as a comedian started to expand?
Yeah, in a really good and a bad way, because I had no money and I had no backing. I don't come from wealthy parents or anything. So it was like I literally had to pay for my rent and food to live based on that. So what I did was just get like a bulletproof 20 to 30 minute set, which I just did over and over and over and over and over and over again. And so for the first like 2 years that I was there trying to establish myself and trying to get in with as many clubs as possible, I also MC'd, so that helped. That's like a skill set that I have, which not everybody does. If you're a one-liner deadpan comedian, you can't MC, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So fortunately I did that. So while it was really good in many ways, becoming a sharper comedian, for those first 2 years, I didn't write a joke. I didn't write a single new joke.
Right.
And this was bits that you were doing already in New Zealand?
Yeah, but kind of like fish out of water, and maybe a little bit of, this is what I noticed about the UK, and that's different, that sort of stuff. And it worked great, and I got on with all the clubs, and it was kind of 2 years in where I started again, because I was going to do the New Zealand Comedy Festival 2008 it was, and the local big promoter, he said to me, if you come back, you have to a new hour, and I'll give you 2 weeks in the Classic Comedy Club as like the premier venue. So that was another huge moment for me, was having to start again and write a new hour, which was so much better than that 30-minute set that I banged out 1,000 times.
Yeah. That's a great experience to re-up the talents when you get to that market. I now I get to dig into something I won't know this about you, so I'm excited to find out. But because I know you're a well-traveled man. But our next question for you is like, and it's probably going to be a two-parter too, because now that you're raising little children, I'm curious of what kind of traveling you did when you were a kid, with your family or for family holidays. And then I'm going to add a second. We don't usually do this with guests, but I'm curious to know how you're treating travel with your children now. Like, are you trying to do it the way you did when you were a kid, or vice versa?
So travel's really close to my heart, and I think it's why I've chosen the profession I have, because I love being on the road. And my parents, they did the OE thing in the late 70s. Back then it was like, you go to Europe and you buy a VW combi van and you go, that kind of, they were kind of post hippie generation.
Wait, you would buy the van?
Yeah, it was a real thing. New Zealanders still do it, and Australians do it. You go and you buy a van, and then you sell it at the end of your time there. And it could be you could be doing it for 2 months. You could be doing it for 2 years. So my parents love to travel, and we did lots of travel as as I said, we're not well, I don't come from money. Like, my parents are teachers, so we didn't have nice cars, and we didn't have a boat. We didn't have stuff like that, but they put a lot of emphasis on travel. So it was always part of my life, and because they always took us, like they never went on holidays without us. That was a big thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not judging anybody, but they always took us with it. And so that's to jump to the second part of your question. That is what we try and do with our kids as well, because I think it's just the greatest thing to do.
Right.
Yeah, I think traveling is such a good thing. I mean, overall, I mean, it's you just learn so much, and you learn to do stuff, or you learn that other people do other stuff a different way, but it's a good way. Maybe it's a better way to do it, and it's like, and I think that's one of the things that the U.S. here, America, they don't do that much. They should travel more outside the U.S. and learn more about other countries and cultures. You know, they're not stuck because they travel from California to New York or to Florida, and it's like, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, I don't know what people go like. It's so different. It's literally the same cheesecake factory everywhere.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah,
entirely.
Some tiny little percentage of Americans have passports. It's like 10%.
Yeah,
right?
well, I think it has to do with the whole like. I mean, I know. I mean, because I was born in Venezuela and I moved to the U.S. when I was 12. So like, I see things from like a little different angle of like outside, but also being living here for so long, also know why. And I think a lot of the things has to be with like with the culture of the U.S. It's like it's always like we're the best, we're number one, we're stuff like that. So it's like, so I think people like, yeah, why do I have to get out of the country if we're the best? You know, kind of thing. Like, and I think, I mean, this is my opinion. I think that's the reason that a lot of people don't travel, because they feel like if it's been ingrained on them, it's like, this is the best country in the world, and why do I need to go outside the world? You know, so I mean, I don't know.
And especially right now, like Francisco, I'm sure you've probably noticed, and I assume, Ben, maybe the same thing is happening in New Zealand, but here in California, we're getting a lot of commercials and advertising saying holiday within California now, because, you know, to get the economy going again and stuff like that. So it's very much, it's a very insular way to market to your Americans, because your money's right there. So everybody's like, spend your money here. So like, why bother going anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, America is such an enormous country. I guess in their defense, like you can almost replicate, other than the cultural aspect, you can replicate almost any landscape in the world within America.
That's true.
You got Pacific Islands, you know, you got mountains and snow and
jungle.
And, you've got the tropical South. That's, I mean, I guess you got deserts.
Yeah,
it is such an enormous country, and I do see the argument for see your own country first. New Zealanders are such travelers that there's because we're two main islands, and most people live in the North Island. The South Island's kind of the big tourist one. It's beautiful, but so many North Islanders or people who live in Auckland, our biggest city, have never even been to the South Island, yet they've gone all over the rest of the world.
Wow.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, I mean, kind of like the same way that I grew up in Venezuela. My dad was a very big traveler guy too, and he always loved to take us travel. But like, yeah, you grew up in Venezuela, and the thing it was like, oh no, you gotta go to the U.S. or Europe because that's better. You know, it's a better place. You know, but my dad would always be like, no, let's travel also around Venezuela. It has a lot of great things, and I think sometimes in Venezuela, like people would take for granted that it's such a great country that you can also travel around it and find a lot of things. But yeah, I think sometimes that happens when people go outside and they don't even know their own country either.
Yeah. I mean, it's a balance, right? Because you want to, you want to experience other cultures as well. But we're definitely getting the holiday within your own country thing at the moment in New Zealand, because we are a country that is reliant on tourism, and obviously that hasn't happened. But actually literally today, we started a travel bubble with Australia. So the first flights from Australia now are coming over without having the 2 weeks managed.
So because I noticed that, I mean, I know some guys who are comic actors and stuff like that they had to go to, I mean, they've been to Australia and you have to stay for 2 weeks in the hotel room without like you can't get out. Like it's like you're like you can even, I mean, nothing. They give you like a bike so you can exercise. It's like in there, but like you can't. So it's very strict. It's same in Canada too, because I know I was like for a project. They told me like you gotta go if you get it, you gotta go to Vancouver. You have to stay there 2 hours. You know.
Yeah, like my family's in Nova Scotia, and they just formed a bubble with their provinces next to them. So Nova Scotia and like New Brunswick, and so slowly your neighboring province is becoming a bubble. But in Canada, they're pretty divided. You weren't even allowed during the pandemic to cross the borders, and if you did, if you did, you were in big Canadian trouble because like we said, very obedient people. Not like Americans. There's no not about your freedom. Very snoopy people. In fact, I told my parents, I said, I can come home for Christmas and I'll just quarantine downstairs in your basement. You can quarantine me there. And they're like, no. The rules are you have to quarantine at a hotel. And I was like, oh God. And plus they just didn't want me to come home. But then they were very clear that they thought the neighbors across the street would tell on them. They're like, neighbors will tell. Nobody wants anybody breaking the rules. I was like, holy fuck, that is so Canadian. That's so Canadian. You know?
Yeah, it was the same here when we did the big lockdown. You know, it was kind of dependent on a lot of people knocking on other people because if your neighbors had a party, and because we wanted to get rid of this thing and get back to our lives.
Yeah, it was such it was such a common sense to me. Like, just be like, just for like a couple of weeks, follow, everybody stays, and then it's gonna be over. But if everybody wants to do something, and to me, I think what we're saying about the U.S. is so big and stuff like that. It's also because like the borders, there's no real. It's funny because every state is like they treat themselves like it's a country. But then you can cross each state like nothing. So it doesn't matter if California is following the rules and then somebody in Florida comes is like, and they get it. I mean, I'm assuming that's how Florida.
No, that was really accurate. That was a great Florida.
They're drunk. They're like they're fighting an alligator and they're fucking got COVID too. So.
Yeah. You guys in New Zealand, you don't have a Florida. I don't think. I don't know if you do. Oh no, you have Hamilton.
Well,
Hamilton is the Florida of New Zealand, I would say.
I do know I do look at the news and I do look for a Florida man at the start of any headline, and that's going to be good.
It's going to be involved meth and an alligator or both. All right, I'm going to ask the third question. So when you travel, you're on the road, what is an essential or sentimental item that you bring with you, if there's any?
Yeah. I don't think of you as a superstitious man, so I'm curious to see where you go with this one.
I've got one superstition when it comes to comedy, and that is I can't have anything in my pockets. That's my only thing. Nothing in my pocket. Yeah. It can be a problem sometimes. Like, I've just had to leave my phone and my wallet behind the bar a lot of times. But,
right. Yeah. Depends on the caliber of the club kind of situation. But I'm the same way. I don't like things in my pockets when I'm on stage as well. So I agree.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, I grew up in Venezuela, so I'm like, fuck this. Anything can go down in this set. I'm ready to go. I got my ID. I got my, fuck.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So you never really lose yourself.
No. I'm like, I'm always going like, my thing is like, if there's something happening, like, do I have my stuff? Am I gonna? Because also like, am I gonna get deported for some reason? Even though I'm a U.S. citizen, I was like, fuck, I want to have everything ready to go just in case.
I've done gigs where my first priority is where the exits are, but for a different reason.
Entirely.
The only thing I really take that I always take is my Swiss Army knife. Which I bought.
Okay. But will you bring it with you to the actual set, to the comedy?
No, I just, whenever I travel, I've always got my Swiss Army knife in my suitcase. Nice. And I've used it, other than for clipping my nails, maybe 3 times. But
I've never heard anybody clips their nails with their Swiss Army knife. That's impressive.
Look, I've got to use it.
Old school.
Do you put Rambo on the TV while you do it?
Well, MacGyver, definitely MacGyver.
Oh, MacGyver, yeah.
I think maybe that's it.
Have you ever had any trouble getting it across a border then? Because I imagine, like,
because if it's in the suitcase, I think it's fine, right?
It's fine in the suitcase, but a couple of times I've forgotten and left it in my hand luggage, and I pleaded with the security, and they've let me post it home.
Oh, nice.
Post it.
Yeah, so you got to leave security, go and get a bag and address it to yourself and send it home. I've done that twice.
Yeah, because if not, you have to leave it there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. in that little clear thing that they make everybody put all the sharp things in there like a lesson to other people. Somebody's lost a Swiss Army knife.
I've done that with a machete.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, because I sometimes like, oh, what? I'm sorry, I forgot. Let me just send it back to me.
It won't fit in. It just won't fit in, guys, in the jar. No, that's fantastic, man. You really have to have time though, too, to be able to patiently go, all right, because you don't have post office in your airport or anything like that, I would assume. So that's a bit of labor.
Yeah, you do sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I got lucky. I also think it was maybe a while ago. I think the rules have got stricter now, but I think they just take it off you now.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember now too. I hope it was the last time I was in New Zealand, but you guys are really lax on IDs getting onto planes too. You just kind of you just read the name on the ticket and they go, "Is that you?" And you just go, "Yeah," and they go, "Get on the plane."
Yeah, there's no ID. I mean, I don't think you ever.
Well, even here, I lost my wallet when I was doing a road gig here, and I was in Washington State, and I thought I was like, "Oh, how am I gonna get back to LA?" And they told me just get early to the TSA, and then I told the guy, and he's like, okay, that's fine. We'll just kind of like we'll research you. And I was like, oh, by the way, I'm a comic, so if you want to Google me, you can find me.
Yeah, right.
And then the guy's like, oh, really? And then he like forgot about me, like that I gave him some, I started, he got curious about the career.
You blinded him with
and then I was like, the fuck, anybody can just duplicate. I mean, I was like, any terrorist can just like duplicate some Google, like have a comic or whatever. I was like, but it was pretty quick too, so it wasn't that bad.
When I first moved to the UK as a comic and anything, but I was moving there, and I got a visa, which a working visa, which you can get if you're part of the Commonwealth, and but I put comedian down as my profession, and I was on a flight when I landed at Heathrow with, I don't know why, but it was literally like 20 people on the flight. And it was the middle of the night when I got there, and I hand over my visa to the border staff, who would just look bored, and it was the middle of the night and it wasn't busy. And she just went, comedian, eh? What about you tell me a joke? And whether I laugh or not guarantees your passage into the United Kingdom.
Wow.
I've been on a flight for like 35 hours and everything, and I was just like, I literally couldn't think of a joke. Like, not even a joke.
Plus, I hate that question too.
Yeah,
it's like,
that fucking question.
It's like, because also like I don't do jokes, I do bits. It's like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So none of us do jokes really.
Yeah.
From 1955, and
unless you're like a grandpa.
And then I don't know how I got away with it, but I was just like, oh look, I'm really sorry, and she kind of knew she was fucking with me, and just went, go on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't stand it though. They expect things. They expect you to be able to crush it with that joke, or to be funny when they go, oh, you're not being very funny right now. Like
and it's never funny. It doesn't matter what funny it is, because every time when you expect somebody to get fun, it's like it's never as funny as a expectation. I hear Warrior Chick Zusi says, "Tell me a joke now." I don't know. I don't know what she's referring to, but I'm not gonna do it. So JJ, if you want to do the joke, you can take it.
She knows the game. She knows. She knows that. No, I think she's playing along with exactly what we're talking about. I don't think she wants you to tell her a joke, man. But yeah, no, that's one of the biggest pains in the asses. Why aren't you being? Oh, you're not very funny now. So you're not allowed in the country.
And it never makes you any more funny. That's for sure.
Yeah. And buddy, I just want to I'll take this chance to thank you very much for being such a good host to me when I'm in your country. You're always awesome. You've also promoted me and stuff when I'm in your country, and you've taken me to sports, to New Zealand sporting events, which I have to say is one of my favorite things to do on the road. I love going to see international sports. And I love you took me to rugby last time I was in your country. which leads me to the next question. So I'm wondering what kind of, and I'm sure this is in your, it's in your repertoire too. You probably like to go to sports as well. What kind of recreational and social activities do you try to do to kill the time when you're on the road, or to enjoy your time when you're on the road, I guess?
I mean, they're probably not that interesting, but definitely eating. So I try and.
All right, you're a bit of a foodie, are you?
Yeah, yeah. Whatever the local thing is, you know, you
Right.
go to a place and you got to get the thing, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I always get the thing.
Yeah, I like that.
You always get the thing. Yeah.
I find I run on the road, like for exercise, and so yeah, I find that just gives you a great overview of a place if you've never been there before. So,
oh wow,
yeah, that's something I try and do everywhere. Yeah,
that's a pretty interesting answer. So if you're gonna go for a run, like, are you a daily runner? Are you yeah? Oh right.
Yeah.
So is this something that you would do once you're settled and you wake up in the morning at the hotel, or is it something that you got to do to reset yourself, like after flying into a place and then you check into the hotel and then you go for a run to get a look at the town?
Well, you know me, and I don't do anything first thing in the morning because I'm hungover. But once that passes, or I'm at the tail end of that, then I go for a run. That usually sweats out the last of it.
Wow. That's impressive, because you know me, and when I'm hungover, I ain't going for a run nowhere. So
yeah,
I'm very impressed with that.
Oh, it's like I did some gigs in Samoa a few years ago, and in Manu Samoa, or the not American Samoa, the other one, and like most people would just go to a resort, I guess, and just enjoy the resort. And I just went for a run on the road every day. And you actually, like, I went through villages and, threw a rugby ball around with kids, and, it's just stuff like that you don't get to do. I mean, that's a particularly exotic example, because sometimes you're just in an industrial town and
like there's nothing to do. I mean, it's nice when there's you're like in a cool Pacific island, not like in the middle of Missouri, and you're like, nah. I'm gonna run through the Chili's and then the Applebee's. And
that is true. There are clubs in America that I've been to now where there is no life around whatsoever. Like it's even a 10-minute drive from the city, Like I'm thinking about like even Zanies in Chicago. There's a Zanies club that's out on the outskirts of Chicago. And I remember thinking, oh, I'll go for a walk, and it's just highway. And so I was just basically walking along the highway for fucking hours trying to find something, or somewhere to go. So it's harder. It made me think, oh, I should have just stayed at the little resort that they've
got. Yeah, maybe. I do try and find the best bit. I think even the worst cities have like a river or something you can run along.
True.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess if you drive to the place and then run, because there's some places that it's too far to get to the lake or something. But
also, cool. I live in New Zealand, where the chances of me being murdered on a run are quite low. But I guess
that's true.
Certain parts of America, I probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's
fair point.
True. There's some places that you don't want to be like even running at the hotel gym, you can get stabbed. So so you gotta be careful.
It's like the worst time. Like, I'm so tired. I'm so sweaty. I'm out of breath. Like if I got mugged on a run, like it's not like I can run away. Like I've energy up to that point.
Yeah, which actually that's the best place. The best way to rob somebody while they're done, while they're almost finishing their run. It's like, where you give me your stuff. I know you're not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point, man.
It's like that Chris Rock joke he did on Saturday Night Live after the Boston Marathon terrorist attack, and he's like, it's like the worst thing you can hear after you've finished 42 kilometers is someone going, run.
That's funny.
Very true.
All right, I'm gonna ask the last question that we have, which is, what is? I mean, obviously you're not from America, but what is a tradition or a custom that you would love to introduced to America that either from your country or from somewhere else, that you have experienced?
Getting a passport.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yes, I think that's the answer. Like, just get a passport. And, but I think also get a passport and then travel, because then you know what they do? They use the passport to then travel across the U.S. Because
Now, what about the other way around? Is there something that you would love, that you've discovered around the world, that you would love to introduce to New Zealand? Is there a tradition or a custom,
A tradition. Oh yeah, the siesta. 100% the siesta.
Oh, that's
the siesta.
Spain. Is that Spain?
I mean, they do it in Spain, but over like also in South America.
Right?
Well, I think Italians do it as well.
Italians,
but like a break in the middle of the day, like everything should just shift. So
yes, I agree with that.
You go home for 2 hours in the middle of the day. You have lunch. You see your significant other, and then you go back to work, and you work later, and then you eat later.
Yes.
And then everything's just different.
It's everything so. Yeah, like in Spain, like in Venezuela, we had that because it's obviously because the Spanish influence. But yeah, my dad, for example, had his own business, and he would pick me up at school at 1 p.m. and then he would come with his friend, with his colleague that he used to work with, and then we'll go home. And over there, we had a maid, because everybody can have a maid. So the maid had already lunch, so we ate lunch, and then my dad would actually take a nap, and his friend would go to the living room and take a nap there. And then because I remember, and then he would wake up. It's like, all right, so they would go back at like at 3 back to his and then they would finish at 7 or 8, and then you have dinner like at 9 or 10. So everything kind of shifts. But I also like that. I think it's like here it's a complete opposite, because here you have to eat your lunch in your cubicle. There's no, you're even going out. It's like, oh, sorry, I got 30 minutes. Everything's so like boom, 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 fast. And it's like, and I think I do like that, having that break. I think it makes, and actually people are more happy, because they enjoy, like you get a break, you go lunch, you can go home, whatever,
Doesn't I think America has one of the most intense working schedules, don't they? They work their people to
vacations.
Death in America.
They don't have vacations. I mean, it's crazy. Like vacations here are like 2 weeks, and that's it in the whole year.
Right. Even
like that's a normal thing. 2 weeks in the full year.
We get 5 weeks guaranteed by the government. Everybody.
Yeah, that doesn't happen here at all. Like I remember I used to work in an office, and they actually had a better, I think it was like 4 weeks that you could spread out, and everybody was like, wow, that's crazy, because that never happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get 5 weeks because I'm self-employed, but people.
Right. Yeah. I think even what is it, labor leave or whatever is very low in America as well. Maternity leave, labor leave. How long are you in labor that you need? Anyway, I meant maternity leave. Very different. Yeah, they work them to death in America. I don't think Americans realize that. This comes back to the start of the show when we were talking about freedoms. And the freedom and the idea that that here in America, but if Americans knew how much holiday time and freedoms that other countries get, and they'd realize, oh wow, I got 2 weeks last year, 2 weeks unpaid leave.
We even have paternity leave here now. I think so. You get 2 weeks for the bloke, for the man.
That's
which is a great concept, and because I really like this. We did a piece on this on the Jim Jeffrey show about this, because they're doing it in Europe as well, and it's helping close the income gap. It's helping close the financial gap, because now men have to take that leave too, so that both parents split the responsibilities, but also both genders have equal opportunities to advance their careers when they have babies and have partners. So I'm all for it, which is weird because I talked about it I remember talking about it in the writers' room and saying it's a good idea, and a couple of the writers were like blown away and they were offended. They're like, "Oh, so men should benefit again," and I was like, "No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this would even things out on the career path. Like, oh yeah, oh men should get a holiday now. Like, no, this is why." This is the whole reason why there's an income gap in the first place, because men can keep working and keep doing their thing. But if we force them to have paternity leave, then it evens things out for people and it will equal. But it's hard. Some people don't see that right away.
Yeah, no, I get that. Can I ask you this? The Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is a handsome man. And when he met our Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern,
he's a Canadian 6. No, just kidding.
His dad was hotter, but anyway. When Justin Trudeau and Jacinda Ardern, our Prime Minister, met at some summit or something, they looked like such a good couple. Like they're both social democrats, both relatively young for world leaders, and there was just all this speculation that imagine be like two socialist houses meeting in Game of Thrones or something, and
both from unite the map. We're from the extremes of the map. I always used to say this, like when I was in New Zealand, like like my part of Canada, Francisco, Nova Scotia in Canada, so the East Coast, the little dangly bit that's you go to Maine and you turn right. Well, I was discovering some what is it? Like travel centers when you go into those holiday centers and they have a map of the world. A lot of times Nova Scotia gets cut off, because they just really run out of map room and they're like, nobody needs to know that little bit.
Yeah, we'll get cut
and then I enjoyed, maybe enjoyment isn't the word, but when I noticed it happens to New Zealand too, and I bonded with Ben over that. I was like, you guys get cut off on the other end. So Nova Scotia and New Zealand are at either end of this map.
I think we get cut off on the John Oliver map that he has on the start of the show. Which he, I know. Well, I've met John way back in the day. He's a lovely man, but he also makes fun of New Zealand a lot for a man who doesn't have it on his fucking map.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the epitome of making fun of it, isn't it? It's pretending it doesn't exist behind you.
Yeah. Sure.
And he makes fun of it for any particular reason? Did he live there?
Not in a bad way. Just it's just some of our sort of quirks, and our politicians, because we're so small, our politicians are quite accessible. Like the Prime Minister is an old friend of mine. Genuinely, I have her number on my phone.
That's cool.
And the previous Prime Minister, he went on a breakfast radio show, and they asked him when the last time he jacked off was, and he answered.
Oh, really? Wow.
And then there was another politician who got a dildo thrown in his face, and just John Oliver just loved that stuff. It's perfect for them.
Yeah. It's more wholesome. Everybody knows each other.
Yeah, it's very much so.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I was just wondering a little curious bonus question. We've been through everything here. You've been awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have an extra question before we let you go. But also, I just thought I'd ask quickly. We had a 6th question here that we weren't sure if we'd get to or anything. But I was wondering, is there any place that you've gigged or traveled to that you think that nobody might know about, like that, a nice little surprise? I know that, of course, you're going to speak for Tourism New Zealand and say, come here. Yeah. This is the best holiday. But I'm curious to know, is there anything that you've any waters you've dipped your toes into that you wouldn't mind saying?
So not just for gigging, but like for holidays as well, right?
It could be whatever. Yeah, I mean, either or both.
I was gonna say. This isn't like a hidden gem or anything, but we went to Tahiti like 2 years ago, and that's like
Tahiti.
Where?
Tahiti is.
What's Tahiti?
Oh,
yeah. Oh, I imagine.
Tahiti. Yeah, but it was the most expensive place I've ever been. So maybe
really?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. My God.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's like a paradise, but is that why they get it?
That maybe I think it's basically an island set up to rinse rich French people of their money because they could go there without.
Right.
It's part of France. Like they can go there. I think it's like one of the longest direct flights in the world. It's like France to
oh wow. Oh, okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so there's just rich French people everywhere, and they'll just pay whatever.
How long does it take to get there from New Zealand?
About 4 hours on a plane.
4 hours. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Oh man,
it's not bad.
Yeah, I love being in California for being so close to Hawaii. I picture myself going there frequently as soon as I get the energy.
Well, the funny thing is, we were supposed to go to Hawaii 2 years ago, and the volcano blew up, and our insurance wouldn't cover us anymore. And because we were traveling with the whole family, like we couldn't afford to get stuck or get sick or whatever. So we actually changed destinations and went to Tahiti. And look, I've not been to Hawaii. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's funny that the insurance was like, we cover everything except volcanoes. We never knew that was going to be the case.
I mean, it was an active volcano, like really going bananas. So.
I mean, that's what I don't even.
Yeah, and you may not know this, Francisco, but New Zealand pretty much is a volcano, isn't it, Ben? Is that a good way to sum up New Zealand? You're basically volcano.
Yeah, our biggest city, Auckland, which has 1.5 million people, is literally on 40-something volcanoes. I mean, they're not active; they're dormant. No. But there's a Rangitoto Island right in the middle of the city right in the middle of the city's harbour. It looks like a nasty ass volcano, and it could go up at any time.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the big eruption? There was a big eruption many moons ago, right? And I think because I went to your museum. And...
Yeah, there's Lake Taupo, which is a lake now because and a really big lake. It's in the top, I don't know, 50 lakes in the world or something in terms of size. But that was a volcano that just went. But that was 1,000 years ago. But
1,000. Okay, never mind.
But apparently they heard it all over the world. Like there's like.
But it was 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, there's historical evidence to suggest that it was heard all through Asia.
Wait, it was here? But how did people even knew that? Like, I don't know, 1,000 years ago. Did somebody?
Yeah,
passed down to. Generation to generation, man.
That pigeon really had to fly through the whole world to be like, hey, everybody, I'm coming from Peru. We heard it here too.
Ben Hurley, dude, it's great to see you. I miss you, man. I miss you, buddy. This is the longest in our careers that I've gone without seeing you. Miss you to death, man. And thank you so much for doing this podcast with us, Ben. Awesome.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, really enjoyable hearing these answers. We one last thing before we go, we ask all our guests this on the way out the door, but is there a quick piece of travel advice or that you want to pass on to our listeners, or maybe that coming from you, or maybe that you've been given yourself?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. I literally don't know what I would say. The worst thing you can do is just waste time on holiday. I think when you're traveling, you've got to make the most of it. Don't just get out and do everything. You'll probably never be back. So
do you mean like, all right, so you don't just mean like meet a schedule? You mean like
just get out of try and get out of bed and see everything you can.
Just get out and run
Yeah, get out and run. Yeah, I don't know if that's advice or what, but I just think maybe when I was younger, I squandered some holidays by sleeping till midday.
But I think it also depends on the holiday too, because if there's some holidays that you go like, all right, this is gonna be to meet the city and we gotta do everything or whatever, and then there's other ones where like I'm just gonna fucking relax and just not do anything. So I guess but I think you still gotta do stuff. I mean, I don't think the point of I do agree with that. I don't think the point of going to any vacation is to sit in the hotel.
No.
Like, why would you do that? Like, I just don't understand that concept, you know?
Yeah, I was watching a Netflix show the other day, and it's got that chef David Chang, and he like goes to a place with a celebrity, and it was Chrissy Teigen.
Mm-hmm.
It's delightful. I'm not having, but she had been to she'd been to Marrakesh 4 times, and it was the first time she'd gone outside of the hotel.
Wow, she's been to where?
Marrakesh in Morocco.
Oh, and she never got out of the hotel?
Just went to the hotel.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you go. Like,
yeah, that's a very good point. And I mean, because I can do that on the road too. Like, even if I'm somewhere special, I can stay in the hotel until my show and not think to just go out and take something in, go see something or do something. So I think that's great. That's great advice, man.
Just run like Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
never stop, and that's what I imagined too when you were saying you were, because he's like, you said like just run, and I was like, all right, how long? Like just keep going for days.
I've got a beer.
Yeah, you got the beer and everything.
Yeah.
Did you come up with new brands? You know, with a smiley face and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
No, man. Thanks very much for coming here, and we appreciate it. I know you got busy, so thank you for giving us the time.
Any of our listeners, please. Yeah, thanks, buddy. And any of our listeners, check out Ben's comedy. We've been posting up clips of his comedy all week. Check out the panel shows. Hey, Americans, check out the panel show that Ben does online and stuff. Or check it out online. And thank you very much, Ben Hurley.
See you guys.
Cheers,
Bye.
bro.